All right. I think we got most folks joined at this point. Anybody else that joins late can catch up on the recording. This will be recorded and sent to everybody afterwards, so if you guys want to reference this too in the future. So I am Mike Zemlinski. I am the Chief Commercial Officer for Iconik, and with me is Glenn from Vimond. I don't know, Glenn, if you want to give your quick intro.
Hi, I'm Glenn Pedersen, one of the co-founders of Vimond and working as the Executive Vice President for Vimond IO. Vimond.
Great. So what we're going to go over today, guys, we're just going to give you a little high-level overview of where we're going to go. I'm going to share my screen quickly here so that everyone can see what we've built out and what we're planning to show. So what we have today is a real-time feed of live stream content for esports. We've got some live gaming going on in the background. And we're going to use IO to be doing all of the clipping and live tagging of that. And we'll show how you can create linked events in Iconik, work with them in IO, hand them back over to Iconik with all of that data intact, and then do some more stuff with it on the Iconik side of things as well. So for those of you that are unaware of what Iconik is a cloud-based software as a service media management and collaboration hub. We've been to market for quite a few years now, and our focus within the market is just making all of your content visible to you regardless of where it lives, and making it easy to integrate with all sorts of different third-party tools via our rich API, and also working with great partners like Vimond to create integrations with their great tools. So that's where we focus our efforts and energy, and then we find great partners to do things like what you're going to see from the Vimond side of things. Glenn, I'll toss it over to you to talk a bit about Vimond.
Thank you. So Vimond came out of TV2 about a little over 10 years ago. So we work, we have basically two product lines. One is our OTT product line, which is focused around content management, transcoding, billing, distribution, etc., for a kind of a complete OTT product offering. And then we have Vimond IO, which is what we're going to focus on today, which is a cloud native video editor, both doing live and VOD ingest, and then exporting to social media to any destination, and then also ingesting from Iconik, which we also will show today.
Great. So for those of you guys that have never been on a webinar that I've hosted before, as you may know, I'm not a big fan of slides, and I'm a fan of actually doing things. So the extent of the slides has already finished, and we are less than 5 minutes into this. We are going to dive right into actually utilizing the tools and showing off what we're going to do. So first and foremost, I'm going to share out my screen, and I am inside of an Iconik instance right now. So this is the one that we have tied to the IO system via their API integration. And I have all my access to search for all of the various different clips within the system with all the various different metadata and things along those lines. What I'm going to do now, just to make life easier for Glenn, is let's say I know that there is a live event coming up and that I want the live feed available in Iconik even before the event starts. I can go inside of Iconik and create a placeholder, and that placeholder I am going to call Mike's Fortnite webinar tournament. And I can go ahead and create that. And by just simply creating that, there's now the ability within IO to find that asset and link it to a live production. And I can do some things before that actually happens here. I can go in and start tagging it with maybe some custom metadata. So I can say Fortnite, gaming, esports, and description, Mike gets wrecked. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And that's as simple as it is. I've got a placeholder ready to go. And all I need to do now to allow that live feed to start flowing into that is hand this over to Glenn, and he can show off that whole process. So I will stop my screen share, let him turn on his.
Here we are. So hopefully you can see my screen now. This is Vimond IO. So first I'm going to show you what I've done now. So this is my workspace I have here. everything I've done to connect everything, to get a live feed in, being able to fetch content from Iconik and also push it back to Iconik. So basically what I've done is going to my inputs and outputs. I pressed add a new Iconik connector. I've connected Iconik. I just entered my email, username and email that I use in Iconik, and then that is connected. In addition, this live feed, that's what we're going to use today, I've set that up using Amazon Media Package. So I'm just adding a new Amazon Media Package connector, entering the URL from Media Package, some authentication if I want to have that, and then start over window, etc. So by doing that, I have everything I need. I'll also show how to push this to social media. So I've already set up my Facebook account, YouTube, Twitter, etc. So I'm going to show that as well. So let's dive right into it. So I'm moving over to the live interface. So I have multiple channels that I set up, also my Fortnite channel. So this is running live now. Not many seconds behind real live. So this is where I can also go back in time. So everything I've recorded, I can go back. So re-record everything for you as well. So I can choose my DVR window, how much I want to move back. I can actually go back several days if I want to. So let's start logging some clips from this. So I actually know that where some action is. So I'm going to move back to 15:37. I know that that's where the event started. And I think something will start happening around a minute from here. So let's just move to that. So we're watching this. I can also use my keyboard. I can go back frame by frame and go back forward, just like you would on a desktop application as well. So let's move a bit forward and see if we can find some action here. There's something here. So this one, I would like to make an endpoint here. We have a kill. So I'm making this a few seconds. So this one, for instance. Let's log this. I'll find Mike's placeholder. Here we are. I can select what kind of metadata I want to add. I've set up now. So then I have my play ID. I have my first kill. Mike's first kill. Let's call it that. And then this is a. So I can choose now to log that to Iconik. I can also save this as a clip if I want to publish that later on. So I'll do that now. I'll log the clip. And then let's continue watching this feed. So a few minutes later, there's also, let's just skip to that. So we have something happening here. So let's make an endpoint. And let's fast forward a bit, see that we find the action. Make an endpoint there. Looks like he's targeting someone, and there's a headshot. Make that a few more seconds, and then I'll make an out point here. So let's log that also to the same asset, and then let's call that. Then I'll also make it a tag so I can find that later. Let's call that a headshot and then save a clip. So this way I continue during my whole live event, tagging everything that's going on. So let's make one more last So this nice house, so let's make an endpoint here. Have a highlight around this pool house. I'll make the same.
And while Glenn's logging that, I think it's important to note too for everybody that's watching this is that I'm actually getting real-time updates of that metadata in Iconik. And actually, I will share my screen real briefly while Glenn is doing this, so you guys can actually see that. So as he's making these comments within Iconik, you can see, or inside of IO, you can see that the time-based comments lined up to the original time code, even before the media arrives in Iconik, are showing up. So I can see that information in real time against the object that I created without ever actually being in IO. So I will hand the screen back over to Glenn so he can finish up here.
Thank you. You can see my screen again?
Not quite yet.
Not quite yet. Let's see.
Hopefully I didn't break it. Stealing the screen from you.
I think you're back.
Yep.
Okay, so I've done a few, logged a few events. So I'm now going back to the start of the event. Make an endpoint, and then now I want to have the complete event and then export that. So we started around 3:36, and then let's say 5, and then we have everything that has happened in this event. So this was the second headshot, and we had the pool house. Let's make this another minute, something like this. So I'll do that. Point here, and now I'll export the clip. Find the same asset, and then I press export, and now this is exported. So this is now exported into Iconik, but I will also show you what you can do then during the game. So as you saw that I did also save the clips so that it could be further we can publish those highlights if we want to. So let's create a new story and do exactly that. So that second kill here, that I think that is something that we should push to social media. So we'll get that up here. We get the proxy, and as you see, I also get some. So this is my in and out point, which I marked, but I also get some handles if there's something before here that I do want. So let's bring that down here. So this looks pretty good. I would like to have an intro and an outro, so I already have that in my Iconik collection. So let's see, Vimond branding. We'll do this, and let's move that to the start. This is okay, but what I'll do is I'll actually shorten this a bit. This, and then I will remove the sound from what I did, and then I'll drag the sound from the actual video. So let's see how this looks. This is my intro, and then let's do the same on the other side. I'll add one at the. And I can do more advanced audio editing if I want to as well. I can adjust the audio, I can use butterflies, etc. But I'll do the same there. I'll trim this in a bit, like here, then I'll drag the sound out. Then we all only have the sound, and then I think I'll do a dissolve in here, a second, and then I'll dissolve out here. And then let's also make a comment. So this is where you got your headshot. So let's say, let's make some graphics. Make Now I also get some graphics. So this graphics is something that you, for instance, create in After Effects. So you can export that from After Effects, and you get that as a template inside Vimond IO. So this looks good. This is what I want. But I want to publish this to Twitter, for instance. And then in Twitter, I want that as not a 16:9, but I want this as a 1:1 aspect. So I've already set that up. So I made a rendition that's a 1:1, so I get this like this. But of course, as you see, this isn't in the center, so I'll move this a bit so I can get this just right. So this is now more optimized for social media. So when I'm done with that, I can go and I can render this and I can publish this to social media. Or my CMS, I can publish it back to Iconik if I want, or download it if I want to. So let's see. Let's push this to Twitter. Likes 100 headshots. That's something I need to. And then I can select then which of these renditions I want. Do I want to full HD? Do I want to social media square? So I'm going to push the social media square option. I can do the same with YouTube, Facebook, of course, and all the others. So this is now pushed to Twitter. It takes a few seconds, and then we can have a look and see what that looks like. You can also, of course, download that directly here if you want to, both the thumbnails and the video in all different renditions. Here we are. Let's see the tweet. And that's it.
I whiffed that one big time. Got that one.
Yeah, looks pretty good. And with the graphics. So that's it. That's also how you can publish or distribute push a story to social media. Of course, the renditions and what you set up could be anything. So this is something what you do entirely yourself. So I've set up a social media here, and before output 1:1 square, 720 by 720, and then a 2 megabit bitrate. So this is something that's fully configurable with much higher bitrates also if you want to publish that to more high quality destinations. So then over to you, Mike. Let's see if we have some input in Iconik.
Yep. So I will share my screen now. And so actually, Ivan just asked the question, can you publish the story back into Iconik? And the answer is absolutely yes. So as you can see, that story got published. While Glenn was doing his social cut downs, the actual file is already in Iconik and available. You can see the proxies being generated right now, but I can go back in here. What was once a placeholder is now a media asset, and I can go right into Premiere with my Iconik panel and hit open that asset, and it's going to download that high-res asset at that point. And you can see that we are transferring that file currently right down into my Premiere panel. I still have access to everything associated with it as well inside of Iconik. So even though the proxy is still being generated, I can go here, see all of my metadata, see where all the files live. I could even start transferring this to other storages I wanted to within the Iconik ecosystem, that sort of thing. But I'm going to pop back into Premiere here and take a look at my object here. And let's go take a look at some places where we can do some editing, maybe with the original high res, and do a more craft edit workflow. So let's see, where was that headshot at? It was up here somewhere. Yep, right here, right? So I can back off a little bit, mark it in, roll forward, mark it out. Let's throw that into our timeline. There, let's see how this looks, right? Okay, cool. We'll delete our back end here. So here I'm doing maybe more of a craft edit, right? So I can do a little bit of kind of manipulation. I can use Premiere Mogerts, that sort of thing, because now that the data is in Iconik, I can use any tool in the world. So what Glenn was doing is maybe day of quick turn cut downs, and you can have things to social feeds like Instagram and Twitter maybe seconds after the actual play happened. Maybe I'm doing my highlight reel for the end of the day and the rundown, and I can be doing that in Premiere, maybe off of a SAN from the original high res in this case. So what I'm going to do is do a couple of Premiere style things. So I will go and take an effect. Let's grab a blur here and throw a directional blur on my clip. And then we'll go to the head of that clip. And let's pull this blur. Yeah, we'll go like somewhere around 60 degrees, and we'll make it super blurry. And then I'm just gonna go forward a few frames here, right about there. And we will make oh, I lied. I'm gonna go back and make a keyframe here. You can tell that this is something that I do every single day. Hop forward a little bit, pull my blur back to 0. And now I've got a nice little fancy effect blur that pops in right before the big boom. Voila. So now I've got my nice little output here. I can hop back into my Premiere panel for Iconik, look at my project, and now I can check in that project file itself, so that now I've got Mike's super awesome edit project living inside of Iconik. And now that can be shared. And you'll notice that it's actually checking in all of the Mogerts as well that I used inside of Premiere, so that the Mogerts are actually portable along with the system. The assets are getting created along that. The other thing I can do is export this for some sort of maybe review process. So I'm going to say use my review and approve setup here inside of Premiere, which is just using an Adobe Media Encoder export. So I go ahead and hit export now. And what it's going to do is toss this project over to Adobe Media Encoder. Adobe Media Encoder is going to start automatically encoding that file. And once that export is complete, it's going to start uploading that output, which is 20-something seconds. Hopefully it doesn't actually take 22 minutes to render this. If it does, we may be just guessing. My laptop with Zoom running and this may be a little bit more than it can handle. But now that we've got this going, you can see we can use all of that content that came through from inside of IO directly back into Iconik. And if I hop back now too, we can also see here's the Fortnite tournament clip. We can see all of the kill feeds right in metadata, for all of the various different places. So all very clean and very easy to integrate the two and get all of that information interchanging. And now that this is actually an element inside of Iconik, it could also be used for future imports into IO projects as well, because it's a bi-directional communication path. So as soon as I export the media file, and once my Adobe Media Encoder finishes in 45 minutes now, okay, we're not going to wait for this one to finish. It's just going to kind of drag along in the background. But once that is actually completed, that would then be an element that's accessible inside of IO that could then be used to cut down other IO projects as well. So you have all of this bidirectional information sharing going on automatically. And once it's set up, there's not really a lot of technical work that has to be done. It's as simple as creating a placeholder inside of Iconik, connecting the live stream to that placeholder, and then your loggers inside of IO and your editors in IO have access to that. And then everybody in Iconik also has access to that story as it's exported. So yeah, that's the gist of what we wanted to show you guys today. I'm sure there are some questions out there from everyone. Anything you'd like to see further or comments you have, we would love to hear them. What do you think about this solution? All right, well, it doesn't look like we have a whole heck of a lot of comments, which is kind of surprising. Maybe we're really good, Glenn, at explaining how things work.
Yeah, it has to be that.
Getting things going. So, and Ivan's saying, question coming, hold on. So we'll hold on for a second while he types a longer question, then hold on for a second. Now, the other thing I'd like to say about this is obviously we did this in a very short form period at this point, but as Glenn mentioned earlier, this could be long form recording. This could be something that is rolling for days at a time and have the ability to have loggers adding that information and associating it with time bases into Iconik long before the file actually ever hits Iconik. So if you're not in maybe a traditional sports environment, but you are in a long form recording environment where you need this sort of information, think large scale seminars, multiple presentations across a day of a long roll in a large conference room. These are the sorts of things that we see pretty frequently. This is also a viable solution for that. So we see it heavily used in esports because of the ease of accessibility of streaming media into the platform and having it 100% managed within the cloud. But there are countless different places that this sort of technology can play into. Okay, so we have a question that says, in the workflow diagram you showed at the start, you created the placeholder manually in Iconik. Could this placeholder be created automatically from Zixi or a scheduling tool? The short answer is yes, absolutely. Everything in Iconik is API addressable. So we created the placeholder, and maybe I could have thrown that into any collection I wanted to and managed it in any way I wanted to, but I could have had any other upstream tool, a project management tool, a traffic control tool, anything out there, make that API call and create that placeholder. That call is actually just a very simple single call, and it's once you actually associate it in IO with the placeholder that the logical linking happens, but that could also be done via API. So you could actually create the story in IO via API and pre-associate the assets via API if you really wanted to. We showed the most simple workflow, but yes, if you have upstream tools, absolutely, this could all be automated end to end. And do you need a placeholder for each potential asset? You need a placeholder for each story. A story is a feed, so to speak, a start and a stop of a recorder inside the scope of IO. So that's going to be a discrete form of media. But as you can see, even if you had a longer clip that has a lot of different comments and time-based markers on it, that can all be done inside of a single story. So this could be a 2-hour long record, not a 15-minute record, or yeah, it's about 15 minutes or so that we did in here. So you can have a longer record if you actually want to, with multiple notes in it, or you could have multiple stories spanning from the same record feed. Correct, Glenn?
Yes, exactly.
Let's see. Matthias asks, do you render After Effects audio video in the front end or in the back end? And what is the bandwidth needed to use those tools? I believe you're talking about in IO, so I'll let Glenn handle that.
Yeah, so we are rendering both in the front end and in the back end. So in the front end, it's just HTML5, so that's very efficient. And then we also render it in the back in the video. It's still really, really fast. So our rendering engine is, I would say, the fastest one in the market. So even 50 megabit per second files, hours long, takes minutes. So it's really, really fast.
Yeah, and as a fun real-time comparison to that, we are now 6 minutes into our 48 minutes of encoding in Premiere of an H.264 that is only about 30 seconds long. So there's some definite benefits to using IO and the cloud scale of the back end for some of this stuff. Any other questions that anyone has? Okay, got another question from Michael. Can a rough cut of selects be created in IO and then sent to Iconik and then opened in Premiere? Would the edits be visible via XML? So from the Iconik side of things, what would have to happen is you would have to actually send the selects directly out of IO, which is supported in IO currently.
Yep.
And then you would use our Premiere panel to check in that project. That would then conform those selects tied to media to a actual project file, and then that could be tracked. What I don't know if we do currently with the integration is if that comes direct from IO to Premiere first. I'm not sure if you guys provide the information about whether or not that is in Iconik, but we can work together to figure that out if that's a real case workflow for any customers, because it is doable kind of on our side.
Yeah. So what we do is then all the metadata, all the metadata that you saw that we logged now, that can also be logged as comments, and then you get that into Premiere as well as comments. So you can see that throughout the timeline.
Yeah. So if I actually go back to my, let's see, project here and do update markers. Oh, I have to actually select the item first to do that. So let's grab this and update markers. And take a look. Now you can see all of the markers that came through from all the kills directly in Premiere. So that was all logged in IO, sent in from Iconik to Premiere, but all the work that the IO clip watchers did flowed downstream to Craft Edit without any human being having to manually export XMLs or anything along those lines.
Yeah. And also later this year, you will also be able to download the project that you have in IO directly into Premiere if you want to do that. So it's an EDL export, and then you get all of that into Premiere directly, or any other editor, desktop editor, if you want to.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, we got another one. Ivan asks, the user account utilized to connect IO to Iconik, does that have to be a standard or above? Yes, because it would have to be a user that has the ability to create formats and file sets and placeholders in the system, because IO actually authenticates as that user, but it does not have to be a full-on admin power user. It just has to be a standard user that can create the same things that you would be able to create if you're manually doing it in Premiere, or if you were manually doing it just with the web app. So IO is acting as that user. That user would have to have enough roles to do the things IO is doing, which is making comments, creating assets, creating formats. So basics.
Just to add to that, you can also set roles so that some users are only able to log clip, and other users are also able to export clips. It doesn't, that you can also have different users doing different things.
Great. So it doesn't look like we have any more open questions. We'll wait another 30 seconds just to see if somebody's mind was piqued by any of this stuff. But again, thank you everyone for joining today. This has been kind of a fun one, because I think there's a lot of practical application to it, and frankly, there aren't a lot of solutions that are doing this elegantly in the market right now. So especially as cost effectively as we're able to do it with these two products. So if there aren't any other questions, we thank you very much for joining, and we will leave you guys to get back a few minutes in your day. Feel free to reach out to us as well if you need to after the webinar. We are happy to, answer any follow-up questions or do more in-depth discussions or demos with you as needed.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.